Hey guys, Jessica here. So today we're going to do a review on the newest Momcozy pump. I know we just did one less than a week ago or about a week ago on the M6, but this is the M9. So I joked in the last video that I was hoping by the M9 we would get a longer tunnel length, and I can go ahead and tell you if you already watched that video. Spoiler alert, we didn't. But this is an entirely different pump, and there is a lot to talk about today. So this is Momcozy's first smart pump. This is going to remind a lot of people of the LV pump. We've got the setup where we've got a flange with a diaphragm on top and it feeds into a bottle at the bottom versus the more generic design that we've been seeing with the Momcozy pumps that are more similar to like the either the cup with the motor on top or the integrated motor on a cup. So this is definitely a more advanced design. It is actually a fairly thick pump. It is smaller than the Willow Go, but in terms of, actual wear, I would say they're about equivalent. So if you are looking for something smaller than the Willow Go, this really isn't going to fit the bill. It is a little bit bigger than the LV. It is definitely bigger than their M9 or their M6. So let's talk about what this pump actually does. This is a smart pump. It does have an app that allows you full control of the pump, which is pretty cool. Momcozy has not had a smart pump before. I will say though, this app is both simultaneously really advanced and a giant pain in the butt. With the giant pain in the butt thing making it so that my plans for this video had to change. Well, my plan was to show you their two mixed modes that you get access to. By putting it on the gauge, you could actually see how it moves, but you can only access one of those mixed modes if you're using the pump on the app, and the app today has decided that it can't read the Bluetooth. Apps are really finicky. They're actually fairly complicated and they don't work consistently for a lot of pumps. I think what they're doing is this is probably going to be an update in the next week or so based on the initial launch. There's typically a pretty fast update to fix any bugs. But until we get that update, the apps tend to be glitchy. So right now, I feel like we're in that period we see with almost all smart pumps. This is not a criticism of Momcozy. This is the hazards of smart pumps. I think what we're getting ready to see is an update. Where updates are weird is that when we update the app, sometimes it doesn't communicate with the pump anymore. And if they push a firmware update to the pump, it can turn your pump into a paperweight in one click of a button. It's actually pretty impressive. But let's talk about the programming on this pump. This pump has essentially, you have a way that you can run it. So you can run it on the standard modes from here. Let me turn this on for you. So you do have a nice little LED screen here that I actually thought was pretty nice. It is pretty quiet. I'm going to give this pump a lot of credit for being fairly quiet. Let me turn this all the way up to the loudest it gets. And there we're at. So you can actually see on here, it's telling me that the Bluetooth is connected, but when we open the app, it doesn't want to stay connected today. So that's a problem. But when you're operating it like this manually from the thing, you have access to three different modes. You have your classic stimulation, which is that light, short suction that helps stimulate the letdown. The cycle speeds on this were actually pretty impressive. You got 15 levels on each of these modes, and it goes from 90 cycles per minute down to 55 with a range of 61 mmHg to 176 mmHg. So that's pretty good range for stimulation. Expression is also equally impressive. We start at 111 mmHg and go to 310 mmHg, starting at 60 cycles per minute, going down to 25. So this is designed to compete with the ranges that we see typically isolated on our more heavy duty pumps. So I'm going to give them credit for that. We do have a mixed mode, which is their 5 short, 1 long. If you are using, I think it's the S12 Pro off the top of my head that has the 3 modes, or if you're using the M6, this programming is virtually identical. And that's actually a good sign to me with Momcozy because it's virtually identical because it works. They did add a few more levels, but the ranges are about the same. So if you are using the M6 and you want it to upgrade for the smart features, you may actually really like this pump. But the mixed mode is running really fast. It's 81 cycles per minute down to 42, and it's that 5 short, 1 long pull that helps to really simulate the letdown for a lot of people. This is going to be common for moms who just really don't want to mess with any type of like messing with your settings while you're pumping. It's also going to be really good for those who struggle. A lot of moms do really well when we start you off on a classic stimulation mode to trigger that first letdown, use expression to help pull the milk from the breast, and then move to mixed mode to help trigger those subsequent letdowns. Sometimes they don't even need to go back to expression, which is handy. But when you access the app, you actually get access to 2 different kind of customized programs and then the ability to write your own program. So when you're running these programs, it's alternating your stimulation and your expression automatically. And they have one that is for like milk relief and one that is for a milk boost. Both of them were fairly standard programs, but definitely worth trying. But you can only access them through the app, which takes me back to the problem with if you can't access the app and operate the pump from the app because the app is being glitchy, this isn't an advanced pump. This is just a standard Momcozy pump. But you buy this pump for the smart features because you're not going to buy it for the disaster of the parts we're going to talk about. Like, this is a pain. So you're buying this for the smart features. You want access to that programs. What this pump does though, there's no other pump on the market that does this. And I think it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It has the ability to custom write your own programs, which means you can go in and you can select from stimulation, expression, the standard mix mode, which is the 5 short, 1 long, and then a secondary mix mode, which is 2 short, 1 long for those who really need a little bit more relief. That one is going to be really good for like the super elastic nipples to like back off on the suction while still getting a pull. Still going to be a little bit of a challenge though because your inserts are this short. So, elastic mamas, don't get too excited. This pump could work for you if you respond well to the shorter pulls that are on it, but you may find that this insert length, even if you respond well to it, is just too short and we don't have the ability to go any deeper. We needed about 4 more millimeters of room in this tunnel. See where that air hole is? You have to stay away from the air hole. We've got about 2 millimeters clearance there, almost 3, and we really needed about 4 to 5 to stick any other inserts in here. You are locked into Momcozy inserts and you're locked into Onion Baby inserts. Everything else was really cutting the suction by about 50%. It's just the configuration's not designed for that. But you have the ability to just custom write these programs. But within the stimulation mode, you also had the ability to control suction and your cycle speed. So they had a slow, a medium, and a fast. This is a lot of options. Guys, there's 225 settings on this pump that you can choose from, which is an insane amount of settings. I think this is a really cool thing. There's a lot of possibility there, but the programming is still fairly clunky. You have to have the pump on in order to access those settings in order to write the program. But you can't control the pump while you're doing that. It's too many settings to make it easy to translate. It is kind of a pain in the butt to test. I've been able to test them all, but it's going to be probably another 2 weeks before I can give you like a list that you can print off and look to see like what your optimal settings would be. And you have to write each step of the program. Writing one of those programs, even if you know exactly what you're doing with pumping, you know what your targets would be and what would work for you, that's still going to be 45 minutes to 60 minutes to write a single program that's going to be worth using because you have to write the different cues for each thing that it does. That's going to be a lot. And again, even if you write this fantastic program, if you can't access it on the pump because you can't get it to connect to the Bluetooth, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, I am considering the fact that I don't know that my pump is actually operational. Ordered 2, one of them is not pulling the right suction. So Momcozy, I emailed them. It's taken a couple days to get emails back from them, but they are saying that they will replace it. We'll see how long it takes. But with the Bluetooth, they really didn't have any suggestions. So that kind of stinks. It's likely just an app thing. It will likely get better, but we do see with all of these smart pumps that Bluetooth is a weakness. So with Bluetooth being so crucial to your ability to access this on this pump, what we've seen from other pumps where we can only access some of the features when we were on the app and actively connected is that it just doesn't really catch on with moms because it's kind of a pain. You sometimes are not going to have access to your app and the pump needs to operate the way it's supposed to. This is not like the LV pump where we have the ability to kind of program the pump and then run it even without the app. We do need the app to get the programming set up, but once it's set up, it can just auto run. This pump doesn't have that capability. Another thing that was really curious in the app is it was talking about a milk overflow sensor, and it gives you the ability to toggle it on and off, but guys, there's no sensor. Lisa over at the Natural Lioness is going to be kind enough to rip apart one of these hubs for us so we can take a look and see, is there some type of new sensor technology? But I honestly don't think there is. I set it to toggle it on and overflowed the pump with the test run and it didn't do anything. Thankfully it did not flood either because it really was not as easy to get milk in here as some of the other designs. So that part is good. But let's talk about these parts because I'm not in love with the parts. Moms are requesting from companies that we need less complex parts. We want less parts to clean, less parts to keep up with. This pump, you've got an insert, you've got a bottle with a cap that screws in, and a duckbill that separates. This is going to be one of the points of suction loss, is that duckbill is kind of hard to get seated in there correctly. So we're up to 3, 4. Pull this apart. This is not actually firmly attached. This part is going to end up ripping parts, but there's 5. Because of the way that you take this apart, this is going to end up needing to get washed at least once a day. And then you have this. I feel like Momcozy went with this part to give us the impression of Medela, because Medela uses a part that looks very similar like this in order to reduce the need to have a diaphragm and a duckbill. This doesn't reduce anything. This is not a duckbill. What this is a silicone plug on the back of here that's completely unnecessary. You also have the reality that in order to get this white piece on, you have to feed it into this thin little silicone piece. This is not going to last. It says it's supposed to last 90 days. I'm going to give it 30 to 60 because people are going to tear these parts. And when you tear these parts, you're not going to get a good seal. So we're going to have lots of places that you can lose suction. One, this is kind of hard. This diaphragm up here is kind of hard to get seated because of the way it clips in. It would be very easy to clip it in, not quite right. Again, because this part should be hinged to something, we should not be able to take that part out. That is just more proof that they're not really testing. They're giving production ready products to moms who don't understand how things fail, and they're not, if they are getting the feedback, they're not taking it, because there's no way that moms were like, I wish that this part that's essential could be a bit more finicky than anything else. This flange is kind of nice in that it is a silicone flange, but it has a little bit of like a hard plastic structure inside here. So think like the Willow Go container back where we have silicone leading to hard plastic. The trick with that is that parts that have that silicone to hard plastic transition, they absolutely do not stand up to heat washing. So if this goes in the dishwasher, if it goes in a sterilizer, it's going to warp. And as this warps, you're not going to get suction. That is where leakage is going to come from. I don't think the leakage is going to be from overflow, because when this starts to overflow, it just drains out of the bottle. Like, this is not an airtight seal that's sitting in the top of the bottle. It's just not. So that part right there is just going to end up with leaking. It just flows out into your shirt. So you're going to wear your milk if it's coming from there. Where leakage is going to come from other places is as these parts start to warp, we're not going to get a good seal here. This point back here is going to be a pump killer. This little plug that is completely unnecessary. This is either somebody was a good idea fairy, or they're doing it to circumvent a patent. I don't know yet. But this part back here is going to leak. And when you get leakage back there, guess where that's plugged into? You're going to get leakage up there with the ability to suck it into the air hole into your motor. When you get your motor wet, it dies. That's not unique to Momcozy. That is just electronics. Electronics don't like water and milk. So there is a design flaw with that. Realistically, these parts, I don't know how much they're going to cost to replace. Given how sturdy and thick this plastic feels and this silicone feels, overall, like if they didn't have this design right here, that little hinged part that I said is going to kill the parts, this would probably last 90 to 120 days. Because the silicone itself is thick, but they kind of built in mechanisms to make sure that it's not going to be as long-term viable as it could. So overall on this pump, I don't really care for it. It has a lot of potential with the app. I would actually love to see the M6 design with the app design. I would love to see that, because the M6 pump is an okay pump. It doesn't have a ton of huge design flaws. It could stand to use a little bit better suction. This double flange design does absorb a lot of suction, and that's a little bit of a challenge because the M6 has the same kind of flange setup. So they are going to need to use stronger motors if they're going to use that double flange setup and be able to get the higher suction that people are asking for. But the M6 itself is a pretty solid pump. It's a pretty solid design. It's going to be easy to use. This is exactly the opposite. I do think Momcozy breaking into the smart pump space is, I mean, I'm hoping it's going to motivate some of these big names to like get it together. Like, again, Willow, LV, we need more programming on your pumps. We need better programming. Willow, we need full control of our Willow 360s. Momcozy is smoking you in the app department. But the pump itself is, if it did not have the app, I think it would be a failure pretty quickly. With the app, it'll take a little bit longer for people to really kind of see the issues. If you respond really well to light, fast suction and the parts end up being affordable and you like the design, you may be okay with it. Again, the app is kind of glitchy. I don't really love that. I think that is going to limit its potential, but I think this is a step forward in app technology and will hopefully motivate some of the bigger brands who have a little bit more reliable apps to up their game. We are at a point with the pump market where a lot of these companies are stagnant. They are not producing new viable technology in any appreciable form. They're just kind of sticking to what's been working and they're not taking any risks. But we need them to be taking risks from companies who have the ability to support it. I don't know that Momcozy is going to have the ability to deal with the challenges that come with smart pumps. Smart pumps die even faster than non-smart wearables, and wearables die really fast overall. I will say my interaction with their customer service for this pump was more positive than I have ever had an interaction with them before. It definitely felt more streamlined. It was very quick and to the point once I got through to them. But I tried to do their live chat, couldn't get them. Tried to do the phone, called and called and called and called and called, and got repeatedly disconnected. That is not good customer service. The email is taking forever to respond, but it did have some type of streamline. The last time I dealt with them by email and had a successful warranty claim, it was far more complicated and felt a little bit like they were making it up as they went. Other claims for stuff have not been a success. Again, I don't love their customer service. I do think that that is something that moms really need to think about. But I also get the reality that the Momcozy Mobile Flow is offering a smart pump experience at a price that blows the competitors out of the water. This is less than $250. I would assume it's going to typically retail between $220 and $275, with most times being $250 or under. So at that price point, yeah, the customer service, it's just not there. And I don't know how long they can support the hazards of smart pumps at that price point. We've seen other companies try and come in with these lower price smart pumps and they haven't survived. They haven't survived the realities of the smart pump. They've run into issues when they're trying to support it. They can't because they don't have the infrastructure, which is also how they're able to sell that pump. What you're paying for with a Willow and LV is you're paying for the infrastructure of these companies to help support their pumps. So is this a terrible pump? No, it's not a terrible pump. The parts are kind of a pain in the butt. If you buy this, you're going to have a lot of parts to wash. You're going to have to work on assembly. There's going to be points of failure. You're going to need to keep these parts in good working shape because as soon as they wear out, it's a huge risk of leaking. But the app is pretty cool and it'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't know that you're going to fall in love with this one. Again, I'm kind of interested to see if their next iteration of the M line is the M6 that's smart because that actually could have some potential. We just have to wait and see. We'll have to see how they do with the app. Maybe Momcozy's getting it together. I don't know. I'm hopeful because Momcozy is out there with so many of my clients having bought it. I hate that so many of my clients get kind of screwed over by the company's policies and lack of customer support. So maybe with some of these higher quality pumps, they'll step up their game. I would love that. I would love to see moms get their warranties honored. And if they do, that'll be a good thing. But overall in this pump, it's okay. It's okay. It's not the worst. It's not one that I think I'm gonna recommend moms run out and buy just because I don't think the technology is there, but it's a first generation smart pump from Momcozy, so the first generation is always a little clunky with all companies. We'll just have to see if they can survive the smart pump game to have a second generation of smart pump. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your questions. Let me know if there was anything I didn't cover because there's just so much to cover with this pump. And then if you want the settings, once they're available, they'll be posted in my Facebook group so that people who want to attempt to write their own program will have the information to do so. We'll even write out a few like basic program ideas for you so you can give that feature a try. And then I would really love to hear what you think of it, how it's performing. A lot of this is going to be waiting to see how it performs. This is not like the other Momcozys previously, so it could be a hit. It could be a flop. I'm leaning towards it's just going to be another pump. But the good news is that even if it's just okay, it's not like Momcozy is going to leave it as just okay for very long. There'll be a new one. There'll be another iteration. That is really the Momcozy standard. Is they do continue to innovate. So we'll just have to see. So hope this helps and happy pumping.